Hello and welcome back to Popcorn Chat. Hope you guys are doing well. In this week's video, I'm talking about a new release, and that is Everybody's Talking About Jamie, which was released on Amazon Prime this weekend. I've been a fan of this musical since I saw it in the cinema. They did a live stream of it a couple of years ago, so I saw it then, and then ever since I've sort of listened to the soundtrack. And in a week's time, I'm going to be watching it for the first time on stage. They're doing a tour around the UK, and I'm actually going to be able to see it. So I thought it'd be a good chance to watch the film before going to see it, but I already have sort of pre-knowledge of the show because I've seen it. So I thought this review could be really interesting about the comparisons between the two. So let's talk about some of the positives of this film. One of the elements that I really liked was that they lifted some of the dialogue directly from the stage production. I could really notice them, in tiny bits of dialogue, and they sort of built around that. So I really enjoyed that, and they sort of tried to keep that element within the film, which I really appreciated. I did like the fact that they included John McCrea, who was the original person who played Jamie. They played a young Loco, so I liked that they sort of had a bit more of an appearance in this film than I originally thought when I watched the trailer. Saying that, I do like what they did with Loco Chanel's song, because in the actual stage production it's probably one of my least favourite songs. So I like that they sort of changed that one up, and they added in this whole sort of element regarding sort of the AIDS sort of a crisis, especially in the 80s and 90s. So I liked that element that they sort of added in that wasn't on the stage production originally. I also think that's the way in which the production could hide maybe that Richard E. Grant isn't a strong singer, and they definitely had sort of a younger person. I'm not sure if it was John singing, but it could have been someone else, maybe to hide some of those weaker vocals in that moment. One of the things I was looking forward to with the film adaptation of the stage production was the fact that we would actually see Jamie in drag. In the first half of the musical, it sort of ends where you sort of see this sort of silhouette of Jamie in like a wig and a dress. However, you actually see Jamie on stage in the film, and I do like that because I've always felt that's what the stage production was missing. I understand it's probably due to sort of costs and time. However, I think that's where the film is better, because we actually get to see that element of Jamie's journey becoming a drag queen. I do like the opening with Jamie doing a newspaper round in sort of rainy Sheffield. It really adds to the character and the dynamic between himself and his mum, and the sort of the need for sort of financial gain, and I think that's something that is really sort of integral to the character that wasn't on stage. So I did like that element, and obviously you get to see Sheffield as a whole, whereas obviously you're not going to see Sheffield, as a grand sort of scheme of things on stage. So I think that was really a good way to set up this film. Another element that I did like with this is they sort of added a little bit more to Dean's story, who is sort of the bully within this, shall we say. We get to see, it's like there's this one shot where we see Dean sort of getting ready for the prom, and you sort of see his alcoholic dad sort of on the sofa, not really taking an interest in what his son's doing, and then you have that bit more of an interaction. You do have an interaction with Dean and Jamie at the end of the show, but in the film it just felt a little bit deeper, and I don't know, Dean just felt like he had a bit more emotion, but obviously that's a little bit different because obviously you've got the stage and sort of on-camera acting. There's that whole other different level to this film, but that's the whole other sort of discussion, but it's just something to bear in mind. But I do think that they did Dean a pretty good service within the film. So some of the negatives that I have with this film, so one of the first points I had was that I didn't really like Max Harwood's voice. I don't think it sort of fit the tone and the range that was sort of written for this musical. I think I've seen other people do it a bit better, but maybe that's just my sort of perception. But if you maybe came into it and didn't have any sort of understanding of stage productions and heard those vocals, you might have a different outlook. But just because I've seen and what I believe I've heard it better, I don't think they were as strong. So that's one of the main problems that I had with this film. A lot of the songs in the film are done in sort of dreamlike sequences, and that's when we see Jamie sort of break the fourth wall. That's when he sort of looks into the sort of camera, and I'm not sure if I was a fan of that. I'm not sure if it took us out a little bit. A lot of sort of film musicals that I've seen don't really have the characters looking at the cameras. It seems very bizarre that they would. I get it, like in some kind of like, this is a dream, this is a musical film, it's very self-aware, but I don't think it sat well in the entirety of the film. In addition to my sort of positive point earlier about how they lifted direct dialogue from the script, they also did that in sort of the more sort of comedic and humorous moments, and I don't think it translated as well. This could be due to, like I said, about sort of the stage acting and film acting. Stage acting is a lot bigger because you need people in the back of the theatre to see your performance, and film is a little bit more minimal. However, I just don't think it translated as well. I think the stage show is much more comedic. The scene in particular that springs to mind is when Jamie is drawing on the eyebrows with Pretty in the sort of the toilets. That is comedy gold on stage. I think that it's really done well, but it just lacks something in the film. I don't think they were able to translate the comedic timing as well as they do on stage. In terms of supporting characters, one of my biggest issues was with Miss Hedge. Now, on sort of the production side, she is much more of a sort of villain. She's more of this sort of antagonistic character. However, because she is played by a comedic actress and writer, I don't think it worked for this role. On top of that, I'm not sure on her song, Work of Art. I don't think it worked as well as it does on stage with her sort of getting on the tables and you have the screens behind. I don't think it worked here. I didn't like the black and white effects at all. I don't even know if she's singing. She possibly could be singing, but I'm not too sure. So the character of Miss Hedge in the film was probably the most disappointing character in terms of transferring from stage to the screen. So in summary, I think as a musical adaptation, I think this is okay. There's definitely, like, they hit all the same plot points, they have some of the same actors in it. However, I don't think it really hits the mark. I think if you do like the music in the film and you haven't seen the stage production, please go and see it on stage. I do think it is much better on stage, so I highly recommend it. I mean, I'm going to go see it in a week's time, and I'm really, really excited. So either way, if you go and listen to the soundtrack, I think you might like it a little bit more. But if you enjoyed it, that's totally fair. I thought it was just okay. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review of Everybody's Talking About Jamie. Whether you love it, you hate it, you're kind of in the middle, that's totally fine. I'd love to hear your comments down below. That's it for this week's video, and I hope to see you guys very, very soon for another popcorn chat.